My name is Tim Carter, and this is the Apologetic and Outreach website ministry of Landmark Missionary Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Arkansas. The title is Bill Nye Ain't No Science Guy, but just referring to the fact that when it comes to discussing age of the earth, time of its existence, how long has it existed, how old is it, things like that, I haven't heard him speak very scientifically, that is, mathologically. Math is the language of all science, so where's the math? So in that sense, that's what I'd like to focus on for just a moment, because we know that just 12,500 years with a simple ratio, I say simple because it's that easy to understand, 12,500 years times 360 days, that's days, years, and this gives us 4.5 million days, which times 1,000 years equals 4.5 billion years, and that's not difficult. And remember, we have a ratio of 1 day to 1,000 years. That's actually called a simile in the Bible, like 1,000 years. Well, we have this interesting reality here, this line here of 6,000 year period of time. Here's a 6,000 year period of time. And if you listen to people, let's say Bill Nye, who touts himself as the science guy, he doesn't really mention that speed is not constant. He doesn't mention that. He doesn't mention the fact that it's not constant. He doesn't mention, let's say, rotation. The earth rotates. Rotation. He doesn't mention that. Speed rate itself varies. He doesn't mention orbit. We know the earth orbits. His own science says that. So we orbit. That varies. That's not a constant speed rate. Speed is not constant. And then travel. The earth travels. So we have travel that is not constant. He doesn't mention or notice, for example, when I heard him trying to ridicule a young earther as the person identified themselves, he didn't mention that at 3 factorial this gives 6 combinations. So there's 6 combinations of these speed rates, which when interacting with each other creates more variables. So for him as a scientist to speak as though time would have to have been some linear thing where the earth would have had to come into existence 4.5 billion years ago and the universe 13.7 billion years ago, he is denying the dynamics of time, as he's accusing people who say only 6,000 years, because if you take rotation, orbit, and travel just of the earth alone, the dynamics and the speed rates, and then the 6 combinations which generate even more variables of speed, and none of those are constant, then it looks somewhat silly asking a scientist how could so many years accrue, or how could so much time transpire in just thousands of years. An actual scientist is expected to know enough mathematics to grasp that. Fortunately, I was trained in the Missionary Baptist Seminary by theologian Dr. John Owen, who theologians use hermeneutics. Hermeneutics professor Dr. John Penn, they use languages. So I'm a theologian now who uses the field of hermeneutics, which use the fields of language or the tools of languages, and then we now apply that to apologetics. So Dr. John Penn and his historical holistic hermeneutic approach invites the inclusion of divine ratio of 1 day to 1,000 years, or 1,000 years to 1 day. So when you leave that out, this becomes a flummox. When you bring it in, it's synthesized. But in the case of Bill Nye, to ridicule and diminish people for saying only thousands of years ago did the earth come into existence, or the universe itself, that's somewhat of an indictment on him and his lack of mental gymnastics in relationship to mathematics, because when you take rotation of an earth orbit of an Earth and then travel of an Earth, this is very dynamic. If we drew it, which you can't, or I've tried and it gets messy, but if we have rotation, we have this rotation, Earth going around and around, and then while it's going around and around and around, it's orbiting while rotating, and then while this is happening, it's traveling. You're looking at quite a dynamic thing, and you're looking at the dynamics of speed rates that just baffle someone, and were it not for the understanding of time itself from the Bible, which he doesn't include data like that. He's never even been asked, well, what if you had a 1 day to 1,000 year ratio? He doesn't know, and a lot of people who study the Bible don't know that a day was 12 hours, a night was 12 hours. So here we have 6,250 day, if you will, time according to a 12-hour day, and that's approximately 6,000 years, like 1,000 years, like is approximately. So we have an approximate 6,000, but when Bill Nye leaves all this out, it only indicates that he's no science guy in this topic under these things. But we would rather reach people, including Bill Nye. We'd rather reach people, including scientists who deny God or refuse to support and believe Him. We'd rather reach people who apparently it looks like people hate scientists. So I don't know what they mean in their revivals when they say we ought to have a burden for the lost, but we know at imcornet.org what a burden for the lost looks like. We demonstrate it every day. Our ministry is around the clock now, 24/7. Our outreach is like a soul-winning machine, a disciple-making machine that just keeps going, and I'm thankful for the Baptists, the commoners, especially of the American Baptist Association. Love the ABA Preachers Forum. You can read that and see all the input, gather all that data, the dialogue, the collaboration. I love the research, the work, and I love coming to conclusions like this. But Bill Nye ain't no science guy. So let's reach people, even scientists. Have a blessed day.